The sun had just started to rise, casting a gentle golden light over the quiet cemetery. Rows of gravestones stretched in neat lines, each one telling its own story, a life remembered and missed. The air was cool and still, carrying the faint scent of fresh flowers and the distant sound of birds. Among the rows of graves, a man walked slowly, his suit crisp and expensive, his shoes making soft crunching sounds on the gravel path. He was a man used to control and power, a billionaire whose decisions affected thousands. Yet here, in this place of silence and sorrow, he felt strangely small and uncertain. His steps slowed as he approached a familiar spot. A polished marble gravestone reflected the morning light. This was where his son rested, a boy whose life had ended too soon. Even after months, the pain of loss weighed heavily on him. He knelt down, placing a single hand on the cold stone. The memories of laughter, of small hands reaching for his own, of bedtime stories and secret smiles flooded back. He had learned to mask his emotions in public, but here in the cemetery, there were no cameras, no meetings, no expectations. He could grieve freely, though the grief was sharp and unrelenting. As he rose and took a step back, his eyes caught sight of something that made him pause. Not far from his own son's grave, a small figure sat on the ground, shoulders shaking, head bowed, tears rolling down a young boy's cheeks. He was alone, surrounded by a few scattered flowers and a small toy clutched tightly in one hand. The sight was unexpected and immediately drew him closer. There was something about the boy's sorrow that felt raw and pure, unshielded by time or experience. The man hesitated for a moment, unsure whether he should intrude on the boy's private grief. He watched quietly, noticing the way the boy's tiny hands trembled as he held the toy, how his face was wet with tears, and how his whole body seemed to carry the weight of a loss much bigger than his age should allow. The billionaire felt an unexpected tug at his heart. He knew grief intimately, yet seeing it reflected in someone so young was startling. There was no armor, no shield, no business strategies to hide behind. This was pure, unfiltered pain. Finally, he decided to step closer, walking softly so as not to startle the boy. He knelt a few feet away, careful to give space and let the silence speak first. The boy did not look up immediately, consumed by his own sorrow. The billionaire felt a strange mixture of protectiveness and empathy. He remembered his own son, how he had once cried alone in the corner of the playroom when nothing else could soothe him. That memory stirred a tenderness deep within him, a reminder that grief was something universal, something that connected people across any divide. The boy finally lifted his head slightly, revealing tear-streaked cheeks and red, puffy eyes. The billionaire offered a gentle smile, not the forced kind he often used in meetings or public appearances, but a real one, warm and understanding. He spoke softly, his voice low and calm, not demanding attention but inviting it. "I see you're hurting," he said. "It's okay to be sad. It's okay to miss someone you love." The boy blinked as if uncertain whether anyone could understand. After a moment, his voice came out in a small, shaky whisper. "I miss him so much," he said, holding the toy closer. "I don't know what to do without him." The billionaire nodded, his own chest tightening. "I understand. I lost my son too," he admitted. The words were simple yet heavy with meaning. It doesn't matter how old you are or how small or big the world seems. Losing someone you love hurts, and it's okay to feel that hurt. The boy's eyes widened, a flicker of recognition passing through them. He had not expected someone else to share his pain, especially not an adult who seemed so strong and unshakable. "You lost your son too?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," the billionaire said, his own voice catching slightly. "It's one of the hardest things a person can go through. Sometimes it feels like the sadness will never end, but sitting here remembering them, thinking about the moments you shared, it helps a little, even if it doesn't take the pain away completely." For a while they sat in silence, two souls connected by a shared experience that needed no words. The boy looked at the gravestone in front of him, then back at the man beside him. Slowly he began to speak about his brother, about the times they played together, the laughter, the arguments, the moments that now felt painfully short. The billionaire listened carefully, nodding occasionally, letting the boy pour out his heart without interruption. Each story was a thread, weaving a connection between them, a reminder that grief was both personal and shared. As the sun climbed higher, the light shifted, casting a gentle glow over the cemetery. The billionaire found himself reflecting on his own memories, not just the moments of sorrow, but the moments of joy, of simple laughter, of small, everyday things that made life precious. He realized that he had spent so much time chasing success, building wealth, and managing empires, that he had forgotten to simply be present. His son's death had been a wake-up call, a painful reminder of what truly mattered. And now, witnessing this young boy's sorrow, he felt a renewed understanding of that truth. The boy, encouraged by the billionaire's presence and understanding, began to open up more. He talked about his family, about the emptiness he felt when no one seemed to notice his sadness, about the longing for someone to simply listen. The billionaire nodded, acknowledging the depth of the boy's feelings. He realized that wealth, no matter how vast, could never replace the comfort of genuine human connection, the warmth of empathy, or the solace of shared grief. Hours passed quietly, though it felt like mere minutes in that space. The boy had stopped crying as much, comforted by the presence of someone who understood. The billionaire shared small stories of his own son, of ordinary days that had meant everything, of lessons learned and mistakes made. The boy listened intently, finding solace in the idea that even someone so powerful could understand loss and vulnerability. Finally, the billionaire stood, brushing the dust from his suit. He looked down at the boy and offered a reassuring smile. "It's not easy," he said softly, "but you're not alone. Grief is heavy, but it can be carried together, and remembering them keeps them alive in our hearts." The boy nodded, gripping the toy a little less tightly now. He looked at the man with a mix of gratitude and awe, sensing a kindness and empathy that went beyond anything he had expected. "Thank you," he whispered. "I didn't think anyone could understand." The billionaire knelt one last time, placing a gentle hand on the boy's shoulder. "It's okay to feel sad," he said. "It's okay to cry. And it's okay to remember the good times. That's how we honor the ones we've lost." As he walked away, heading toward his own son's grave, he glanced back to see the boy sitting more upright, staring at the gravestone with a small tentative smile. In that moment, the billionaire felt something shift inside him, a mixture of sorrow, empathy, and a quiet hope. He realized that even in grief, there could be connection, understanding, and the first steps toward healing. The morning light continued to spread across the cemetery, illuminating the rows of graves, the flowers, and the two figures who had briefly shared a profound moment of understanding. The billionaire knelt once more by his own son's grave, closing his eyes, letting the memories wash over him. And though the grief was still there, heavy and persistent, he felt a glimmer of something new, a reminder that even in the deepest sorrow, the human heart had the capacity to connect, to comfort, and to begin healing again. The cemetery was quiet, the soft rustling of leaves in the breeze the only sound besides the distant birdsong. The young boy sat a little straighter now, still near the gravestone, still holding the small toy, but something in his posture had changed. He felt the presence of someone who understood, someone who had felt the deep ache of losing someone they loved, and that made the world feel slightly less lonely, even if only for a moment. The billionaire, after kneeling by his own son's grave, walked slowly toward the boy again. He didn't hurry. He wanted to give the boy space, to let him choose whether he wanted company. The boy looked up, meeting the man's gaze, and saw a warmth there he hadn't expected. He noticed the softness in the man's eyes, a kind of understanding that went beyond words, beyond wealth and status, beyond everything he had thought he knew about adults. "Do you want to talk?" the billionaire asked gently, sitting down on the grass a few feet away. He kept his voice calm and unhurried, letting the boy feel in control of the moment. The boy hesitated, unsure if it was safe to open his heart, but the sincerity in the man's tone gave him courage. I miss him so much," the boy whispered, his voice barely carrying over the morning air. He was my little brother, and now he's gone and I don't know what to do." The billionaire nodded slowly. He understood all too well the helplessness of loss. "I know," he said quietly. "When my son died, I felt like the world had stopped. Like everything I had built meant nothing. And the sadness, it doesn't go away. But it changes. It becomes a part of you. And it can teach you things about love and about how important it is to be with the people you care about while you can." The boy looked at him with wide, tear-filled eyes. "Did it ever get easier?" he asked hesitantly. "Do you ever stop missing him?" The billionaire shook his head. "No," he admitted. "You never stop missing them, but you learn to carry it differently. You remember the good times, the small moments that mattered more than anything else. You let those memories live with you. And sometimes sharing those memories helps, even if it's just with one person who understands. The boy thought about this. He had tried talking to his parents, but they seemed too busy, too caught up in their own lives, or maybe too afraid of grief to face it. No one had listened to him like this. No one had really sat with him and let him cry, let him tell the story of his brother without rushing him or trying to fix things. For the first time in days, he felt a small flicker of relief. I liked how he used to make me laugh, the boy said, voice trembling. Even when I was mad at him, he could make me smile, and now, I don't know how to feel happy without him. The billionaire listened, letting the boy speak, nodding and understanding. It's hard, he said. Losing someone changes everything. And it's okay to feel lost, to feel sad. But it's also okay to feel happy when you remember the good times. Happiness and grief can exist together. You don't have to choose one or the other. The boy clutched his toy a little tighter, thinking about the moments he had shared with his brother. The games, the laughter, the small arguments, the hugs that came too late. Do you still feel close to your son? He asked quietly. The billionaire paused, taking a deep breath. Yes, he said after a moment. I feel him in little things, in memories, in stories I tell, in the lessons he taught me. And sometimes when I'm quiet, I can almost feel him sitting next to me, watching, reminding me of what really matters. The boy nodded slowly, absorbing the words. It was strange to hear someone so grown up speak so honestly about grief. Usually, adults tried to hide their sadness, pretending everything was okay. But this man, he had let the boy see his heart, and that made the boy feel safer to share his own. After a few moments of silence, the boy spoke again, more freely this time. I sometimes feel like no one notices me, like my parents are always busy and my friends, they don't understand. And I can't stop thinking about him. The billionaire leaned slightly closer, keeping his tone gentle. I know that feeling, he said. It can be lonely when you're grieving and it feels like the world is moving on without you. But you're not alone. You have your memories and you have people who care, even if you haven't met them yet. And sharing your feelings is one way to bring them out of the shadows, to let others see that you're hurting and that it's okay to hurt. The boy looked at him, a mixture of surprise and gratitude in his eyes. No one had ever spoken to him like this before. He felt a strange comfort in the man's presence, a sense that he wasn't being judged or rushed. He was allowed to feel, to cry, to remember. They sat together for a long time, speaking softly, letting the morning unfold around them. The boy told stories of his brother, of their adventures, of the small, ordinary moments that had been so important. The billionaire listened, sometimes offering his own memories in return. Stories of his son's smile, his laughter, the little quirks that made him unique. And in that quiet exchange, an understanding grew between them, a bond formed through shared grief and empathy. At one point, the boy looked up at the man with a question in his eyes.
Do you think it's okay to feel happy again?
He asked hesitantly. The billionaire smiled gently. Yes, he said. It's not forgetting them. It's remembering them with love. Happiness doesn't take away the memory of someone you lost. It honors them. You can feel joy and sadness at the same time, and that's part of being human. The boy thought about this, feeling a small spark of hope. Maybe he could find a way to live with his grief, to carry it without letting it consume him. Maybe he could remember his brother with love and still laugh, still feel moments of happiness. The idea was new, but it felt like a small light breaking through the darkness. As the sun climbed higher, the billionaire realized he needed to return to his own life, to face the world outside the cemetery gates. But before he left, he wanted the boy to know he wasn't alone. I'm going to go now, he said softly. But I want you to remember this. It's okay to cry, it's okay to be sad, and it's okay to smile too. Keep the memories alive and let them guide you, and know that someone understands. Someone cares. The boy nodded, holding his toy a little less tightly now, feeling the weight on his chest ease slightly. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you for listening. The billionaire gave a final nod, a small warm smile, and began walking back toward his own son's grave. He glanced over his shoulder once, seeing the boy sitting quietly, a faint smile on his face as he looked at the gravestone. It was a small moment, but it mattered more than words could express. As he knelt by his son's grave once more, he reflected on the encounter. Grief was a universal language, one that connected people beyond age, beyond wealth, beyond life circumstances. The boy had reminded him of something important. The human heart, in all its fragility, could find connection and understanding even in the darkest moments. And that realization brought with it a quiet sense of hope, a reminder that even in sorrow, compassion could shine through. The morning sun continued to rise, casting long shadows across the cemetery, illuminating the rows of gravestones, the fresh flowers, and the quiet, shared moments of two people bound together by loss. The billionaire stayed for a while longer, allowing himself to feel, to remember, and to honor both his son and the bond formed with the young boy, whose grief mirrored his own. And in that shared silence there was comfort, understanding, and the faint stirrings of healing. The days passed slowly, each one feeling heavier than the last for the young boy. He returned to the cemetery often, carrying his small toy, sitting by the grave of his brother and letting his tears fall freely. The presence of the billionaire, though brief in the first encounter, had left a lasting impression. Knowing that someone who had experienced the same pain understood him had made a difference he could not put into words. Yet, even with that connection, the boy's grief remained deep, gnawing at his heart in ways that were hard to bear. One morning, the billionaire returned, quietly walking through the familiar paths, observing the boy sitting by the grave. This time the boy looked up immediately, sensing the man's approach. There was a tentative hope in his eyes, a question unspoken but clearly felt. Would this grown-up understand again? The billionaire gave a gentle nod, and without speaking immediately, he sat down on the grass beside the boy. The silence between them was not awkward. It was filled with understanding, a shared acknowledgement of the grief that had brought them together. The boy's voice broke the quiet. "It feels like no one really cares," he said softly. "Even my parents. They say they love me, but they're always busy, and I keep thinking, maybe if I had been nicer, or done something differently, he would still be here." The billionaire's chest tightened. Hearing the boy blame himself for something he could never control, he placed a comforting hand on the boy's shoulder. "It's not your fault," he said firmly. "Sometimes bad things happen and no one can change them. You did nothing wrong. Your love and care mattered more than you realize. You were important in his life and he knew that." The boy looked at him, eyes wide and searching. "But I can't stop thinking about him. I can't stop crying. I feel like I'll never be happy again." The billionaire nodded, understanding the depth of that feeling. Grief doesn't have a schedule. It doesn't follow rules. Sometimes it will feel unbearable, and sometimes a small moment will make you smile again. That doesn't mean you've forgotten him. It means your heart is learning to carry both sadness and love at the same time. The boy thought about this, the words slowly sinking in. It was different from anything he had heard before. Adults usually told him to stop crying, to be strong, to move on. But this man was telling him it was okay to feel, to remember, to grieve. And that was a comfort he had not expected. He looked down at the small toy in his hands. "I don't know how to remember him without feeling so sad," he admitted. "Everything reminds me of him, and it hurts so much." The billionaire smiled softly. "Memories can hurt, yes, but they can also bring warmth. You can choose to hold the happy memories closer. Let them remind you of the joy he brought. It's not easy at first. You'll feel the pain and the love together, but in time the love will give you strength." The boy nodded slowly, gripping the toy as if trying to hold on to the courage the man's words gave him. Do you ever feel happy when you think about your son?" he asked hesitantly. "Yes," the billionaire replied. "I do. I remember the laughter, the small moments that mattered so much. Those memories make me smile even though they also make me sad. It's a strange feeling both at the same time, but it's real, and it's okay to feel it." The boy thought about the times he had laughed with his brother, the little jokes, the silly games, the shared secrets. He realized that even though the pain was still there, those memories also brought a tiny spark of warmth, a reminder of what had been precious. Maybe, he thought, he could carry that warmth with him too. As they sat together, the boy's voice became steadier. "My parents, they don't understand," he said. "They're always busy with work or their own worries, and sometimes I feel like I have to hide my sadness so they won't be upset or disappointed." The billionaire nodded in understanding. "I know that feeling," he said. "Sometimes the people around us can't give us the comfort we need. That doesn't mean your feelings aren't valid. You're allowed to feel, to cry, to be sad. And finding someone who will listen, who will understand, is important. That's why it's good to talk, to share, even with someone new. You don't have to carry everything alone. The boy glanced at the man, a flicker of hope in his eyes. For the first time in days, he felt that maybe he wasn't completely alone. Maybe there was someone who truly understood the pain of losing a loved one. Someone who could offer comfort without judgment or expectation. I just wish I could see him again, the boy said quietly. Just one more time to tell him I love him, to hug him, to say goodbye properly. The billionaire's throat tightened, feeling the truth of the boy's words. I wish the same, he said softly. I wish I could hold my son one more time, hear his laughter, see his smile. But even though we can't see them again, their memory lives on. The love you have doesn't disappear. It stays with you, shaping who you are, reminding you that you were loved and that you are capable of love. The boy's eyes welled up again, but this time the tears were mixed with a sense of relief, a feeling that his grief was seen and understood. He shared more about his brother, the small things that had made him unique, the moments that now felt too short, the laughter and mischief, the quiet companionship they had shared. The billionaire listened attentively, nodding, offering gentle encouragement, and sharing occasional stories of his own son to show the boy that he was not alone in his feelings. Hours passed in quiet conversation, sharing memories, acknowledging pain, and finding moments of connection. The boy began to understand that grief did not have to isolate him. There were people who could understand, who could offer comfort, who could sit in silence and let him be himself without judgment. And that understanding was a lifeline, a fragile but important thread that could help him navigate the difficult days ahead. At one point, the billionaire reached into his pocket and pulled out a small notebook. I write down memories sometimes, he said, handing it to the boy. Little stories, things I remember about my son. It helps me feel close to him even when I'm sad. Maybe you could try it too. Write down what you remember about your brother, the things that made him special. It's a way to keep him with you even when he's gone. The boy took the notebook with wide eyes, feeling a sense of hope and possibility. He had never thought about keeping memories like that, of turning them into something tangible, something that could comfort him on the hardest days. He nodded slowly, feeling a new determination to try. You can write anything, the billionaire continued. Funny stories, silly moments, the things that made you laugh. And when you read it later, it will be like he's right there with you, smiling and remembering those times together. The boy's lips curved into a small smile for the first time in days. I think I can do that, he whispered. I think it will help. The billionaire nodded, a quiet satisfaction in his heart. He had seen enough grief in his life to know that healing did not happen overnight. But small steps, moments of connection, and shared understanding could make a difference. He would continue to be there for the boy, offering guidance, listening, and sharing the love that grief could not erase. As the morning turned to afternoon, the boy carefully placed the notebook beside him, clutching it to his chest. He looked up at the man beside him with gratitude and a hint of hope. Thank you, he said quietly, for understanding, for listening, for caring. The billionaire smiled warmly, placing a reassuring hand on the boy's shoulder. You don't have to thank me, he said. Just remember that someone understands and you can carry that with you. And remember, it's okay to feel both grief and love at the same time. That's how we honor the people we've lost. As he stood to leave, the boy waved, holding the notebook tightly, feeling a small but important shift inside him. The world still felt heavy, and the pain of loss was far from gone. But the boy had taken a step toward healing, guided by the understanding and compassion of someone who had walked the same path. And the billionaire, as he walked away toward his own son's grave, felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that even in grief, human connection could bring light, hope, and the first steps toward healing. Days turned into weeks, and the boy continued to visit the cemetery, carrying the small notebook the billionaire had given him. He began writing down memories of his brother, stories of laughter, shared secrets, and even small arguments that now seemed precious in hindsight. The act of writing gave him a sense of control over his grief, a way to hold on to what was lost while still moving forward in some small way. The billionaire, meanwhile, continued to visit as well. Their meetings became a routine, though unspoken, built on trust and understanding. He didn't bring gifts or try to solve the boy's problems with money. Instead, He brought his presence, his stories, and his empathy. He understood that grief could not be fixed with material things. Healing came from connection, acknowledgement, and the feeling that someone truly cared. One morning, as they sat together by the boy's brother's grave, the billionaire spoke softly. "You're doing something very brave," he said. "Writing these memories down takes courage. It's not easy to face the sadness and the love at the same time, but you're doing it." The boy looked up from his notebook, a small smile forming. "It helps," he admitted. "When I write, it feels like he's still here listening, laughing with me. I can remember him without feeling completely broken." The billionaire nodded. "That's a very important step. Holding on to memories, cherishing them, and letting them guide you can help you carry grief in a way that honors your brother. And you're not alone. I'm here and there are people who care, even if it doesn't always feel that way." The boy thought about his parents, who still seemed distant, absorbed in their own lives. He realized that while they loved him, they could not always give him the comfort he needed. But now with the billionaire, he had someone who understood fully, someone who had experienced loss in a way that mirrored his own. It was a strange, comforting feeling, and it gave him courage. One afternoon, the boy hesitated, then spoke. "Can I ask you something? Something personal?" "Of course," the billionaire replied. "Do you ever feel like you failed him? Like you could have done something to stop it?" The boy's voice trembled, his small hands gripping the notebook tightly. The billionaire's eyes softened. "Yes," he admitted. "I felt that way more times than I can count. But the truth is, there's nothing I could have done. His life, like your brother's, was not something anyone could control. Feeling guilty is natural, but it's not the truth. We did everything we could with love, and that love is what matters most." The boy nodded slowly, absorbing the words. For the first time, he felt a small release from the crushing weight of guilt he had been carrying. The billionaire's honesty and understanding gave him permission to feel, to grieve, and to start healing without blaming himself. Weeks went by, and the bond between them grew stronger. The boy began to share more openly, talking not just about his brother but about his own hopes, fears, and dreams. He spoke about wanting to do things his brother would have loved, about small acts of kindness he wished to carry forward, and even about school and friends. The billionaire listened, never judging, always encouraging, and sharing bits of his own experiences in a way that made the boy feel understood and validated. One morning, the billionaire brought a small photo frame containing a picture of his own son. He handed it to the boy. "This is something I keep to remember him," he said. "It's a way to hold on to the love and the memories. Maybe you can find something like this for your brother too." The boy accepted the frame carefully, studying the photograph. A warmth spread through his chest as he imagined keeping a picture of his brother nearby, a tangible reminder of the love and joy they had shared. It was another small step toward healing, a way to honor his brother while learning to live with the grief. One afternoon, as the sun began to dip low in the sky, the boy hesitated before speaking. "Do you think it's possible to feel happy again? To feel joy without feeling guilty?" The billionaire smiled gently. "Yes," he said. "It's possible. It doesn't happen all at once, and it doesn't mean you've forgotten. It means your heart is learning to carry both the sadness and the love, and eventually, the love can bring moments of joy. It's a process, and it's okay to take your time." The boy nodded, clutching the notebook and the photo frame to his chest. He felt a glimmer of hope, a sense that maybe one day he could smile again without feeling like he was betraying his brother's memory. That hope, fragile as it was, felt like a lifeline. As the weeks continued, the billionaire and the boy shared small projects together. They planted flowers by the graves, wrote stories about the loved ones they had lost, and sometimes simply sat in silence, letting the memories and the presence of each other provide comfort. The billionaire never tried to hurry the boy's grief or offer solutions that money could buy. Instead, he focused on presence, empathy, and understanding, the things that truly mattered. One day, the boy spoke up, a quiet determination in his voice. "I want to do something for him, something that will show I love him and that I remember him." The billionaire nodded. "That's a wonderful idea. You can honor him in many ways, through stories, through small acts of kindness, through memories. It's up to you." The boy thought for a moment, then smiled faintly. "I want to plant a small garden here by his grave. Flowers he would have liked, colors he would have loved, something beautiful that will grow, just like the memories I keep." The billionaire's eyes softened with pride. "That's perfect," he said. It's a way to keep his memory alive, to celebrate his life, and to create something meaningful. And you don't have to do it alone. I'll help you. Together, they chose the flowers, dug the soil, and planted the seeds with care. Each plant, each flower was a small act of love and remembrance, a tangible expression of grief transformed into beauty. The boy felt a sense of accomplishment and connection, realizing that even in loss he could create something lasting, something that honored his brother and allowed him to carry forward his love. As the garden grew, so did the boy's understanding of grief and healing. He learned that remembering did not mean being consumed by sorrow, that love could exist alongside sadness, and that human connection could provide strength in the darkest moments. And the billionaire, witnessing the boy's growth, felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that his presence, his empathy, and his understanding had made a difference in a young life. The cemetery, once a place of raw sorrow, became a place of quiet healing, where two people, bound by shared loss, found comfort, understanding, and hope. The boy's small acts of remembrance, guided by the billionaire's compassion, became a daily ritual of love, a way to honor the past while embracing the possibility of joy in the future. Evenings came, and the boy would sit by the garden, watching the flowers sway in the breeze, feeling the connection to his brother and the guidance of someone who had walked a similar path. He began to smile more often, laugh quietly to himself, and feel moments of joy without guilt. The journey was far from over, but with each passing day he felt the healing power of presence, love, and understanding. The billionaire, standing nearby, watched with a quiet satisfaction. He had come to the cemetery seeking solace for his own grief, but he had found an unexpected purpose: to help a young boy navigate his loss, to offer understanding and companionship, and to show that even in sorrow, connection and compassion could light the way. In their shared moments, both had discovered that grief, though heavy, could be softened by human presence, and that love, once given, could endure beyond loss. Time passed, and the boy's garden had begun to flourish, each flower a bright symbol of the love he held for his brother. The notebook was filled with memories, stories, and sketches, each page a testament to the bond he had shared and the grief he had learned to carry. He still visited the cemetery daily, but his tears were no longer endless. Now they were part of a healing process, small releases of emotion alongside the quiet moments of reflection and remembrance. The billionaire continued his visits, though less frequently, giving the boy space to grow and heal independently while remaining a steadfast presence when needed. The bond between them had deepened, not as a relationship defined by wealth or status, but by shared experience, empathy, and human connection. Each encounter reminded the boy that grief could be carried with dignity, love, and hope, and that he was never truly alone. One sunny afternoon, as the boy tended to the garden, planting new seeds and trimming flowers, he paused to reflect on all that had changed. He no longer felt trapped by grief. He could smile without guilt, laugh quietly to himself, and recall memories of his brother without the sharp sting of despair. The presence of someone who understood had made all the difference. It had taught him that healing was not forgetting, but remembering with love. The billionaire arrived quietly, sitting on the grass nearby, watching the boy's careful movements with admiration. He could see the growth, both in the garden and in the boy's spirit. The boy looked up and smiled, a genuine smile that lit up his face, the kind that had been missing for so long. "You've done something remarkable here," the billionaire said gently, gesturing toward the flowers. "This garden is a living memory full of love, care, and dedication. It's a beautiful way to honor someone you lost." The boy blushed slightly, a mix of pride and humility in his expression. "It helps," he said softly. "Every time I plant a flower or water them, I feel like he's here watching and smiling. I feel like I'm keeping him alive in some way." The billionaire nodded, understanding exactly what he meant. "That's exactly what love does," he said. "It stays with us in small things, in gestures, in memories, and in the lives we touch. You've learned to carry your grief in a way that honors him and yourself. That's a rare strength." The boy paused, looking down at the notebook in his hands. "I've been writing a lot," he admitted. "Stories, memories, little things he used to say or do. It's helped me feel closer to him even though he's not here." "That's wonderful," the billionaire said warmly. "It's a way to keep the connection alive, a way to let your heart heal while still remembering. And it's something you can carry with you forever." The boy smiled, flipping through the pages, seeing sketches of shared adventures, scribbled jokes and heartfelt notes. Each page was a piece of his heart, and as he shared it with the billionaire, he realized how much stronger he felt. Grief had not disappeared, but it had transformed. It was now a companion, a reminder of love, and a motivator to live fully and honor the memories of those who had gone. "Do you ever think about him?" the boy asked after a pause, looking at the billionaire with curiosity. "Every day," the billionaire replied. "I think about my son in small moments, in memories, and the lessons he taught me. And I carry that love with me. It shapes who I am, just like your brother's memory shapes you." The boy nodded, feeling a sense of shared understanding. It was comforting to know that even someone so grown up, with so many responsibilities and experiences, still felt the same way about loss, still carried love and grief together. It made the boy feel less alone, less afraid of his own emotions. They sat together for a while longer, speaking quietly about life, loss, and the moments that mattered most. The billionaire shared stories of his son's curiosity, small acts of kindness, and playful mischief, while the boy shared moments of joy and laughter with his brother. The conversation was gentle, filled with empathy and grounded in the reality of human emotion. It was not about fixing grief, but understanding it, living with it, and learning to honor it. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the cemetery, the boy stood and looked at the garden. Each flower swayed in the breeze, a living testament to love, memory, and care. He felt a deep sense of peace, realizing that even though loss was painful, it could be transformed into something meaningful. The billionaire stood beside him, silently acknowledging the boy's growth and resilience. "I think he would be proud of you," the billionaire said softly, placing a reassuring hand on the boy's shoulder. "Of the love you've carried, the memories you've kept alive, and the way you've learned to heal while honoring him." The boy smiled, feeling the truth in those words. It was a moment of quiet triumph, a recognition that even in sorrow, life could be embraced and love could be carried forward. He realized that healing did not mean forgetting, that grief could coexist with hope, and that human connection could guide him through the darkest moments. Weeks turned into months, and the cemetery visits became less frequent, though still regular. The boy had grown stronger, more resilient, and more capable of living with the love and grief intertwined in his heart. The billionaire remained a mentor and friend, a reminder that empathy, presence, and understanding were more valuable than any material comfort. One day, as they walked through the cemetery together, the boy paused at his brother's grave. He knelt, placing a fresh flower in the garden, and whispered a quiet message of love. The billionaire watched silently, moved by the boy's strength and tenderness. In that moment, both understood the depth of human connection, the power of shared grief, and the way love could endure beyond loss. "Thank you," the boy said softly, looking at the billionaire, "for being here, for understanding, for helping me find a way to carry him with me. I feel like I can live with this now, not be afraid of it." The billionaire smiled, his eyes reflecting both sorrow and pride. "You've done the work yourself," he said. "I've only walked beside you. Your strength, your love, and your courage have carried you here, and you will continue to carry it forward, honoring your brother and yourself."